The following is a candidates' night sponsored by the Lions Club and organized by the Canton's Voter Guide Group. For more information online, go to cantonmavoterguide.com. The local election is April 2nd, 2024. The following candidates are running for the Board of Assessors. There are 2 candidates running for 1 open seat that serves for 3 years. They are Rocco DiGirolamo and Kathleen Howley. The moderator is Mark Porter.
For over 65 years, the Canton Lions have generously volunteered their time, passion, and energy to support all aspects of our community and our 5 global causes: diabetes, vision, hunger, the environment, and childhood cancer. Our major goal is to wipe out blindness. I am Harriet Burak. I am a member of the Canton Lions Club, and we are very much behind the scenes in supporting the program that is tonight. And I just wanted to introduce you to a few facts about the Lions Club. The Lions Club here in Canton is part of Lions Club International, the world's largest service club organization with more than 1.4 million members in 46,000 clubs located in more than 200 countries and geographical areas across the world. Tonight, I, Harriet Burak, represent the Lions Club of Canton. Our main mission is to do public service. We continue to raise money to wipe out blindness. In addition, we have donated to this library, to the police, the food pantry, and a high school scholarship. We are continually growing, and we need every single member to help achieve our goals. As you recognize the value of this club, please consider joining. We need you. The Canton Lions Club, along with other residents in the town, are happy to put on a candidates' night event. We are a non-political organization, but we realize the importance that elections have to our community. The Lions, as well as the Canton Voters Group Guide Group, and others have put together a 2-night series of questions. Tonight is the second night, the first being last week on Thursday night. As you see in our banner, which is right across there, the Lions Club banner, there's a lion's head, and it focuses in 2 different directions. It points back to the past and forward to the future. Our goal in this candidates' night is to move the town forward. Thank you for being here tonight. I now call upon our moderator of the evening, Mark Porter, to introduce tonight's program.
Thank you, Harriet. Is this loud enough? I'm a little bit taller. This forum is co-sponsored, as you heard, by the Canton Lions Club and the Canton Voter Guide team. I'd like to thank these volunteers who have taken the time to plan this evening's events. As you may know, we invited the candidates for the 5 contested races to come to last week's forum and this evening's. Unfortunately, due to time constraints, the 4 uncontested races, we were unable to host those folks. My name is Mark Porter, and I'll be your moderator tonight. This evening we'll start with an opportunity to hear from the Board of Assessor candidates. As you probably know by now, we will not be taking questions from the audience. The questions have been generated by the volunteers who planned this event and by many of you who responded to the Canton Voters Guide survey. While there are many interesting and important issues for this evening's forum, we have prioritized those questions, as Harriet said, focused on the future, not the past. We tried to avoid issues that we felt had been heavily discussed in other forums. We tried to choose questions that would allow each of the candidates to differentiate themselves. Further, we tried to find questions that were both fair to those that were incumbents and fair to those that were running for office for the first time. Now to the format. We'll start with a 2-minute opening statement for each candidate, and then we'll ask questions on a rotating basis. You'll each have 3 minutes to answer those questions. In some cases, I may ask a follow-up question based on your responses, and then we'll conclude with another 2 minutes each of closing statements. When speaking, you'll be given a microphone that's in there in the middle of the table, and that's to amplify your voice in this room. The smaller microphones that are on the table, those are for cable TV, so this event can be broadcast back home. When your time is up, I ask that you pass the microphone to the next candidate. We do have a timekeeper volunteering her time up front here, who will let you know when you have 30 seconds left. And I ask you try to keep your answers concise and to the point and respect these time limits, because we are going to try to get everybody at the library home on time. To the candidates, we ask that you continue to be respectful to each other, that you do not interrupt your fellow candidates, and we remind you that any time you use to rebut a fellow candidate's response will lessen the time you have for your own response. And to the audience, please hold any applause or comments. Please respect your neighbors both in the audience and on this stage. Finally, this session is being recorded by Canton Community TV. It will be broadcast in the days to come, so please do encourage your friends, please encourage your neighbors to watch the videos, whether you're streaming them, whether you're watching them directly on TV. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our candidates, Rocco DiGirolamo and Kathleen Howley. Just in the essence of fairness, to decide who goes first, we will flip a coin. We have an eagle on one side, which will be tails, and a Lady Liberty on the front, which will be heads. Kathleen, if you wouldn't mind calling it.
Heads.
It is heads.
All right.
So if you wouldn't mind, start us off with your opening statement, please.
All right.
2 minutes, please.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm Kathleen Howley. I lived. Oh, sorry.
Start that over.
All right. I will start that over.
Oh, no, I meant the time.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kathleen Howley. I've lived in Canton since 2006. One of the things that attracted me to Canton was the relatively low tax rate compared to surrounding towns, and the amenities and the schools, the quality of the schools that are all, of course, things that support our real estate values. I have been a journalist my entire life, a financial journalist. I started writing for the real estate section of the Globe in the 1990s. And I was at Bloomberg News from 2000 to 2015. During that time, I was focused almost exclusively on anything to do with home prices and the economic factors that influence real estate values. I also covered some of the largest companies, especially those related to real estate. At the time, it was Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. Since 2008, of course, they're not the largest companies, and they're owned by the government, and the part that isn't is penny stock. Thank you. I decided that I would like to offer my services to the town. My hope in all of these elections is to have a government that more reflects the population of the town. Of course, using, with electing highly qualified people. And I do feel I've spent my life discussing and, writing about these issues that impact real estate values, and in the covering the revenue of the world's some of the world's largest companies. So I am a first timer. I never thought I would run for any political office, but it sort of felt like I was recruiting other people to run, and it occurred to me that maybe I should put my money where my mouth is. And it seemed to me that this is a place that most suited my experience. And in addition, this is a role that requires integrity. It's something I've always had as a journalist. And now time is up. Thank you.
2 minutes, sir.
Okay, I will be seeking re-election to the Board of Assessors in April on the 2024 town election. It has been my honor to serve this position over the past 25 years, and I have always kept the citizens of Canton as my top priority in every aspect of the role and responsibility. The 2024-25 tax rate that my fellow assessors and myself have set for residential home is $9.97 per thousand. which is the lowest in 15 years. It has always been important to me to work to provide both residential and business owners with fair property valuation and to be caring listeners when they question their property value or request an abatement for personal hardship reasons. As a member of the Board of Assessors, I support the Senior Resident Work Program that we sponsored to provide our Canton citizen seniors up to $1,500 tax credit for working at various municipal jobs at the town hall in the town. We also work closely with the finance department to help ensure Canton maintains stable tax revenue in support of our AAA bond rating. In addition, I've worked with my fellow assessors to support new business development with targeted tax abatements or collaboration with the Massachusetts Office of Business Development, Canton Select Board, Finance Committee, and Town Meeting, generating over $5 million of new commercial industrial tax revenue for our town, which supports our municipal services, schools, and helps to bolster our reserve funds.
Rocco, thank you. We have two minutes, so we're cutting everybody off when we hit the number. I apologize. So moving on to the next question, and Rocco, this one will be yours first. Yes.
Am I gonna go on?
So we're doing the assessors first,
Oh,
then the planning board, then the school committee. So everybody gets their spotlight.
oh, okay.
So the first question, I have to be honest, I volunteered with the town for 12 years. And while I have a pretty good idea of what a lot of committees do, the assessors is not an area that I feel like I fully understand what the job of an assessor is. And I imagine a lot of the voting public feels the same way. So Rocco, could you briefly, in your own words, describe what are the responsibilities of the Board of Assessors? And again, you have 3 minutes, and Kristen will keep track of the time.
Okay, if I can get this mic, there we go. The assessor's office is the cornerstone of the town's finances. Property taxes are the main source of revenue. The assessor's office administrators this critical element of town finance. All property is discovered, listed, valued, and classified according to use. Records of ownerships as well as detailed description of the property are maintained by the assessor's office. These records are a tremendous source of public information for other town departments, the general public, and professionals. The assessor's office has a detailed sketch of each building in the town, as well as maps showing the location of these buildings in each real property lot line.
And is there anything else you'd like to add as far as your role as an assessor? You have a little more time left if you'd like. If not, we can move on.
No, I think we can move on.
Great, thank you. And then Kathleen, same question. Would you like me to repeat it?
Yes, please.
Can you briefly explain in your own words the responsibilities of the Board of Assessors?
All right. So as I'm sure you're all aware, the Board of Assessors don't go out and assess properties. It's an oversight function. And you want people, of course, with integrity, who believe in transparency, et cetera, because we are talking about people's largest assets for most of us, unless we're independently wealthy and own an island somewhere. Most of us don't. For most of us, our home is our largest asset. And you want people with integrity who are overseeing that staff and responsible for that. I would encourage anybody who wants to look at their assessment to go to, I think it's assessedvalues2.com. It's not for some reason it's not linked to the town website, but there is a website where you can look at your assessed value and you can compare it to maybe another house you know. Another thing that the board does is, of course, to listen to air applications and discuss applications for abatements of a widow who's applying or somebody who is a veteran who meets one of the criteria for getting a reduction in their taxes. That's something else that the assessors does, but most importantly, I would say, is the focus on the business community in Canton. I learned when I was at Bloomberg, I learned from the best. Mike Bloomberg was an amazing businessman. And he taught us all that when you're reporting on business, you're reporting on people's lives. You know, you're not reporting on, say, Microsoft, yes, the details of that, but how the businesses are doing says, do you have a job? Is your adult kid able to get a job? Can you take your family skiing on vacation? This impacts all of us. The economy, as he used to say, is a collection of businesses. And that's how he defined the economy. So of course we want to support businesses in Canton and always, be putting that as a priority because the health of the business community in Canton, which is very healthy, and we're lucky for that. That's one thing that keeps our tax rate low compared to surrounding communities who are ideally located. And so that's something that we all depend on, and it is important to have a very business-friendly person or people on the Board of Assessors because, that's kind of where our bread and butter come from. Without the very large business community in Canton, it would mean that our taxes, our residential taxes would be higher. So we all appreciate the contribution that the business community makes. And I think people in Canton want somebody in this position who is very pro-business and is business friendly. And I learned that through my years, my more than 2 decades as a financial journalist. For example, it's not bad news that businesses most fear, it's uncertainty. I saw that through the 2008 financial collapse. They can handle bad news, they can't handle uncertainty in my time as a thanks.
Great transition. The next question, what criteria would you use to determine if a company should be offered tax incentives to move to or stay in Canton? And Kathleen, we'll start with you on this one. 3 minutes.
3 minutes. I will say, first of all, that when dealing with these issues, it's incredibly important to have somebody in this position who can keep confidences. Because, for example, if, I'm just trying to think of an example, if Starbucks, and this is a made-up example, so if Starbucks decided they're sick of the raining in Seattle, they want to move to the Boston area, and oh gee, they're looking at Canton, you need people who can keep these confidences, because if that were to get out, that would impact their stock prices, and their stock price, and that's not something that is going to help foster a positive business climate in Canton. So this is something that supporting the business sector involves understanding what they need for them to make a commitment to Canton. And when it comes to offering them incentives, I would say that I would always try to take a common sense view and represent the residents as much as I can in these decisions, because, for example, if we give them an incentive, it depends on how it's structured, because then they could take that incentive and 3 years later move to Rhode Island. And we've seen businesses do that in Massachusetts. So it is it's a decision that has to be made with some common sense and practicality, but also it needs to, these decisions need to be made with the residents' point of view top of mind, because you don't want to give the store away. You could give all these tax breaks, tax incentives, and then they're going to hire somebody from Boston. It's not going to create a local job. So all of these things are things to keep in mind, but always keeping the bottom line that what's good for business is good for the residents of Canton, but just not to give the store away when trying to foster that. And that's what I would always keep top of mind.
Thank you. So Rocco, same question. What criteria would you or do you use to determine if a company should be offered a tax incentive to move to or stay in Canton?
If I can just think. First of all, the assessors have always supported numerous statistic business projects, which have led to over $5 million in new annual business. as far as a new company coming into Canton, we would try only if they ask a TIF, which allows a company to, when the taxes are, a TIF is, we allow them like a 50% break the first year, 40% the second year, third year, 30%, and 20 and 10, and then full valuation. And this helps people and companies to entice them to come to Canton. And we will try to help them set up wherever they find new land and possibly bring them to Canton. And this is the best way to get them to relocate or come to Canton, period.
Great, thank you. And then, so continuing the pattern, Rocco, this next question will be for you. I think that a lot of us have learned a lot about the select board's mitigation funds over the past several years. The assessors also have a pool of money called the Assessors Overlay. Can you tell us what the Assessors Overlay account is for and how you manage the overall balance of the account as an assessor?
The overlay is a single account of fund abatements and exemptions of committed real and personal property taxes for any fiscal year. The overlay amount is determined by the Board of Assessors and required by the Massachusetts Department of Revenue. And what that is used for is it sponsors the senior program, it sponsors abatements for residential and commercial if they so desire to try to, but they have to prove to us that the abatement is justified. As far as residential goes, the overlay is used for that also, is to give them a break if they so desire by checking the neighbors. If all of the residential in that area are based similar one way, then they don't deserve it. But if theirs is tremendously high compared to others in the neighborhood, then they are deserving of an abatement.
Thank you. Kathleen, same question. Can you tell us what the Assessor's Overlay account is for and how you would manage the overall balance of the account?
So my understanding it is for example, abatement or exemption applications, and that could be the difference between somebody being able to stay in their home in Canton or not. And we're a community, and we want to keep people in their homes if we can, and so I think that's a laudable use of those funds. And I would hope to have as much transparency as possible, and in many ways, including getting the word out about if you're a veteran, if you meet these criteria, then you can apply for an abatement or an exemption. If you are a widow, or if you are, and so I would try to get those details out as much as possible. The other thing is that I think that as far as transparency goes, hopefully, that could be made more aware to the public. The public could be made more aware of what's happening with those funds, except for, of course, when it involves personal information of people who have applied for any of those abatements or exemptions. I would also add that the meetings of the assessors aren't online anymore if you go to CCTV, and so Assessors, the last one was, I think, 2.5 years ago. I would like to have that increased transparency by having the meetings online, even if it requires that, at the assessors meeting, we make it a Zoom meeting and just have it, running while we have the meeting, or because that's how important it is that people be able to, find the video recording of those meetings and see what's happening in open meetings.
Great. Thank you, and we do have a little bit of time, so I do want to ask a follow-up question on this, because I feel like wearing my FinCom hat from many years ago, there were times where the assessors, if there was a surplus in the overlay account beyond what was used for abatements and things of that nature, if there was a surplus in the overlay account, that could be released for town meeting projects and things like that. So again, I admit it's been a while, I could be rusty, but Kathleen, can you comment on that? And then after that, Rocco, could you please comment on that? If we do 1 minute, please.
So again, the more transparency, the better in a democracy, because we don't want it to seem to residents like this is like a, you know, the beneficence of the assessors have now bestowed this gift on, you know, this is our tax money. And I think there should be more clarity and more transparency in how those decisions are made, and where those funds come from. And I would always keep in the forefront of my mind, what is, you know, the best interest of the residential taxpayers who form the majority of the community of Canton.
Thank you. And Rocco, same question. Could you just talk briefly about the decision to release surplus overlay for town meeting?
We can release the overlay depending upon what it's for. Like, I call it the rainy day account. Like, for example, when the oil tank at the high school ran a hole and they had to dig it up and replace it, where did the money come from? It came from the overlay. But it also has to be approved at the town meeting. Now, we have a school, the middle school is going to be either repaired or replaced. Now, a portion of this overlay can be used to finance the rebuilding of the school or rebuilding a complete new school. And we can also release it, you know, to various projects.
Thank you. And then the last question for this evening, before I ask you to make your closing statements, is very broad. So you can kind of take this one in whatever direction you'd like. If elected or re-elected, what are some of your priorities for the next 3 years beyond what we've already talked about? What would you like to focus on? And Rocco, this would start with you, please.
Well, I would like to keep Canton going in the right direction. And basically, our AAA bond rating has a lot to do with the assessors because of the amount of money we have in the overlay. I like to keep Canton moving in the right direction and keeping our town financially sound, which I can comment on because of all the finances and everything. Also, Canton, we would like to bring as much new business into Canton as possible, because if we bring new business, we bring new monies, and it helps offsets the residential rate. And also, Canton is a town that it is very prosperous, it's very well-known, and very well-run. So I would say that's the reason we're going to move in the right direction.
Great, thank you. And then Kathleen, same question. If elected, what are some of your priorities for the next 3 years? What would you like to focus on?
If elected, I think I would like to serve, if possible, and it's up to the other assessors, of course, on CABI, the Canton Association of Business and Industry. I think it serves the town well to have somebody who understands the world of business and also looks like the world of business. We have never had a woman serve on the assessors that I know of. I've looked back in annual town meeting reports and I haven't found that. And, business nowadays, business looks like the rest of us, it looks like the town looks. And they would, I think they would appreciate having somebody like that, whom they could be a liaison for them. Also, I've spent my life, my career reporting on economic factors covering the Fed for a while, covering all sorts of economic reports, and I spent several years on the bond team. And it is wonderful that we have a AAA rating. I will say we haven't had a bond rated since January of last year. So while technically, they could, if there was some large, traumatic event like the collapse of 2008, bonds would be reevaluated. They could be reevaluated, but they're typically not until it's time to rate another bond. So I think we have to keep our focus on providing the best, most accountable, most transparent government that we can provide. And we have a lot of projects that we want to do, I know, as a town, including the middle school. My kid is very excited about it. There's a chance that perhaps in her final year of middle school, she could possibly be in the new school, Jayan McCourt was saying to us. So all excited about that. And that requires discipline, and it requires smart growth, and it requires keeping our eye on the ball. And I think that with my experience as a financial journalist, during the financial collapse, by the way, I won the Loeb Award, which is the highest award that they give to business journalists. It's not the Pulitzer, it's a step down from that. I also won the New York Press Club Award for my coverage during the financial collapse. And those were very trying times, mostly for the business world, but also for the reporters reporting on it. Long days. And a lot of unknowns, the thing that businesses hate most of all, the unknown. So I feel like I have a sense of the business world. I've interviewed more CEOs than I could even give you an estimate right now. The last one I interviewed was a few months ago. The CEO of Shark Ninja, they have the world headquarters in Needham. And I know how to speak to business people. And I think I would represent the town well in this very critical part of our economy. Thanks.
Thank you. So, yeah, we did both of those for you folks.
Yes.
So then to wrap up, you each have a 2-minute closing statement to just continue the order. Kathleen, if you'd like to start, this is our last 2 minutes to make our case to the voters.
All right.
Tonight.
Well, I would appreciate your vote for the Board of Assessors, and I would then be the first woman ever serving on this board. I really had given up hope of ever being the first woman anything since it's 2024. I was hoping maybe I could be the first openly gay person in some capacity in life. But no, it's kind of a little bit shocking that there hasn't been a woman before, but I think it's time. I also believe, and I respect experience so much, I really do. When people talk about term limits, I am never you think every time people should rotate. No, this is a small town. We value experience. We need that. But I do think more than, say, 2 decades is too much as we appreciate people's service. I think that it increases transparency to have people after, say, 15 years or some amount of time to have a new person on the board. And I also would end with emphasizing that, because this is people's largest asset, for those of us, again, who aren't independently wealthy, you need somebody with integrity on the board. And I have spent my life as a journalist following, people don't know this, but journalists have we have so many rules that we are supposed to follow. And I'm an old-fashioned journalist, so I have those rules I'm supposed to follow. And, when I get asked, oh, can I buy you lunch? Oh, can I take you golfing? Oh, can I do this? I actually had, when I was working at Forbes, someone asked me to go to he wanted me to write about this luxury development of villas on the ocean in the Caribbean. He said, well, we'll fly you down. You can stay in this villa and you'll even have your own butler. And I had to say, I can't do that, as lovely as that sounds. But if you tell me the butler has an English accent, I'm going to be even more tempted. But I can't, because, we have to follow our rules of ethics. And I have always done that. Thank you.
Thank you. And Rocco, the same, 2 minutes for your closing statement, please.
First of all, I would like to thank the Lions Club for sponsoring this. And I would like to keep Canton moving in the right direction. I get along with all the department heads in Canton. I'm a certified tax assessor. And we need experience now more than ever. We can't take a step backwards. We got to keep moving. And in order to do that, we have to have harmony and experience with all the departments in Canton. And I hope you vote for me on April the 2nd, and I would appreciate it, and I thank you very much.
Thank you. So before we wrap up for the first session of this evening, I want to remind you all to please check out CantonMAVoterGuide.com for information about all the races, the candidates, voting information, and more. Thank you to our candidates for being here tonight. Speaking as someone who did serve the town for 12 years in a number of capacities, I appreciate the pain and suffering that involves both running and serving in various capacities. So thank you. Somebody's got to do it, and I'm glad it's not me anymore. And to the audience, thank you for being here this evening. We really appreciate it. Local elections matter. Every vote counts, and informed voters are essential to good governance. Thanks again for coming, and have a good evening.